Hello again. The next two videos are going to be covering how we create a layout in AutoCAD, how we get our drawing out of the software onto paper, and how we control the line weight, the way the drawing is going to look on paper. Now, prior to watching this video, you should look at the video that covers the CTB file. Okay, and why we use it, what it's for. Okay, I don't want to go over that again because it's done fairly well in the other video. Okay, so assuming you now know what a CTB file is, we'll start the rest of the process. So something that you need to do initially with AutoCAD is to decide where these pen settings files are going to go, and this is done in AutoCAD. You can either leave it the way AutoCAD sets it up, or you can control it yourself. You can decide where things are going to go. So let's have a look first at where the software has decided the pen settings will be found, and you do this through the control panel. Okay, so if you're using a Windows PC, then you want to open your control panel, and this is what it usually looks like. The settings are kind of bunched into types of operations. Now, if you try to find what we're looking for through this view, you'll not get it. You can't see the icons that AutoCAD will have dropped into your control panel. Okay, so we change from view by category to large icons. Okay, and when you do that, you see many more icons available for doing all sorts of controlling. And here's two that AutoCAD has dropped into your control panel. Okay, this is going to control your printers that you have. Okay, but this one's the more useful one. This is a shortcut to a folder. Okay, so if I click this, okay, it takes me to a folder on my hard drive. Okay, so this is drive C. If I make this a little bit longer, I might be able to see C as well. There we go. Okay, so it's drive C, and for me as the user, it's created a folder. Okay, and it's set up the pen settings files in that folder. Okay, now that's absolutely fine if you want to keep using that, and any pen settings files that you create yourself can be saved into that. Okay, but usually people want to take control of where their pen settings files are, and so we can change where this is going to look. So instead of looking at this folder, we can tell it to go somewhere else. Okay, what you could do before you do that is actually copy these. These could be copied. Okay, so these are the standard ones that come with the software, and we could copy these to another location and adapt them. Okay, so we'll just close that. So how do you change where this icon sends you? Okay, so we'll keep that available. Just minimize it. Okay, and what you do is you go to the red letter A, and then to options. You can also type in the options command. Okay, usually it will start in the Files tab, and this is where we want to be anyway. So we go to Files, and then look for the 10th one down, Printer Support File Path. We expand that, and then the Plot Style Table Search Path. Okay, so at the moment, this is the location that we were just in. Okay, it's telling me that any pen settings files will be found in C:\users/ etc. Okay, now you could click on that and then browse, and it will change that. Okay, what you could also do is just add another path. So if I add a path and then browse on this one, okay, on drive D of my machine, I've got a folder set up for my pen settings files. So it's the CTBs folder. Okay, if I want it to look into this one first, which I do, I would move it up. OK, click apply, and if I click OK, this will disappear. So we'll just keep that visible for a second. Go back to control panel. When I click on this, it should take me to my pen settings file now. Okay, so it just refreshes that link in the control panel. Okay, so some of these are made by me. So this one, this one, this one, and these. These are adaptions of the standard pen settings files done by me. Okay, so that's working fine. And that could be, it could be any location. You could even use a USB drive for that. It doesn't have to be, you know, a specific hard drive position. Okay, so click OK there. Right, so we've covered sheets BP 2D 11 and 12 in that section. What we'll do now is set up the layout. Okay, so when you open when you start a new drawing, it gives you two layout tabs straight away. Okay, click on layout 1. Okay, now we don't know what size of paper we're dealing with here. It's just automatically created this for us. So we've got the shape of a piece of paper, we've got a printing boundary, that's the dashed line, and then there's a third item here, and this is a grey line here, which happens to be on layer 2D seat travertine, because that was the current layer when we went to the layout. It created the viewport on that layer, and that's what this object is. It's a viewport. It looks back into model space, and it initially fills the viewport with everything that it can find in model space. Okay, let's just go back to model space. I just want to demonstrate something. Okay, I'm going to zoom I'm going to draw a line that's very long. I'm going to draw a line that goes this direction a very long way. Okay, go back to the layout. I'm going to go into the viewport and then zoom extends. Okay, so you see what happens, it's filling the viewport with everything it finds in model space. If you've been a bit untidy in model space and you've ended up with a dot or a small line somewhere a long way away from your building, you may have to track that line down before you can get it to zoom extends properly. Okay, so let's take this methodically, okay, and try and explain what's going on. So before we do anything here, what we need to do is establish the size of the piece of paper that we want to work on. You know, we'll have an idea as to the output size we want. Okay, so let's say we wanted to work on an A3 piece of paper. We need to tell the layout that that's what we want to work with. So we do that by right-clicking the word Layout 1, go to Page Setup Manager, okay, and we're modifying Layout 1, so we click on Modify. Okay, so at the moment there is no printer specified, but the view is of a piece of A4. So we can change both of these aspects. Drop the little arrow down, and it shows you the printers and output devices that you can use. So some of these are printers. So this Samsung CLP 310 is my printer in my room. Further down we've got ways of making files. So we've got an Adobe PDF printer, and we've got DWG to PDF. So these will generate a PDF file instead of sending it directly to a printer. Here we've got create a JPEG or create a PNG. Okay, we're going to work with a DWG to PDF printer because it's standard in every copy of AutoCAD. Okay, you have to pay for Adobe Acrobat before you'll get the Adobe PDF printer. So DWG to PDF, Okay, and that determines what paper sizes you can use. And because it's a PDF printer, you can print to effectively any size of paper. So let's find A3 on the list. As you can see, there's a lot of paper sizes here. So I'm going to go for ISO A3 420 by 297. Okay, so this updates to show me the paper size. We want to plot the layout. Okay, look for one of the supplementary videos which shows you how to squeeze big prints onto small paper. If you're doing that, you would choose window. But most times people will be plotting their layout. Okay, so just make sure that says layout. This item here is so that we get the right size of paper generated. Okay, it's nothing to do with architectural scale. Okay, so this needs to read 1 to 1 and 1 millimeter equals 1 unit. Make sure it looks like this, otherwise things aren't going to work correctly. We then choose our pen settings file. So this is critical. Okay, at the moment there's no pen settings file available. So we're working with one called black and color. This is the one we're going to use all the time. Okay, so inside that pen settings file, the different colors on screen are mapped to black pens. Let's just quickly look at that, just to review things. So we can use this icon to edit the CTB or to look at it. Okay, form view is the easiest one to understand. So what I'm going to do is just run through the first 9 colors and you'll see what happens. Color number 1 is going to print out black with a line weight of 0.1. Color number 2, also black, but the line weight is 0.25, so it's a slightly thicker pen. It's a slightly brighter color than red, and therefore we allocate a thicker pen to it. Color 3, I've got that set to 0.5 millimeters, so it's a thinner pen than color 1. So if I want a very fine line, I would color my layer green. Color number 4, back to 0.1. Color number 5 is black and 0.1 as well. 6 shows a jump. It's black, but it's very thick. So this is the color that's being used for the wall lines, because they're supporting the roof, so they get the thickest lines. Color number 7 is black and it's fairly thick, 0.5 millimeters. 8 drops back to a thin pen. 9 drops back to a thin pen. 10, however, is going to use the object color, so it will print red. 11 uses the object color. 12, 13, all of these up to the end of the list will be using the object color. So we've got 246 pens that we've got color available for, and the first 9 are set to be in black. Okay, I didn't make any changes there, so I'm just going to save and close. So it's ready to use. Okay, leave this tick off if I were you. Okay, because it will show the color of the lines in the layout, but it won't show the thickness. So it doesn't give you a proper impression of how your drawing is going to look. So just leave that out. Everything else stays as it is. We leave all these alone and then click OK. Then click Close. So you can see things have changed a bit now. The paper is enlarged. So we can now enlarge our viewport. Okay, so this is quite an elastic object. It kind of stretches and pulls. We don't really want it on 2D seat travertine layer though. Let's have a look to see if we've got a layer to use. No, we don't. We need a viewports layer. So let's create a viewports layer. Use layer properties. We want a new layer. We'll call it viewports. I'm using the plural there because we may want more than one. Now, I usually pick a strange colour, something I haven't used for anything else. So change it to maybe 181. It's a nice lavender shade. Okay. What we don't want is for this to end up on the paper. We want just the drawing to be the focus. We don't want boxes around our drawings. So we make this a non-printing layer. Don't make it the current layer though. Okay, close the dialog box, click on the viewport edge, and then put this, oops, I messed that up. Click on the viewport edge and put this onto the layer viewports. It's just off your screen. There's too many layers here. Clicking the layer viewports. Okay, now we can maximize the viewport. So you just click on its corner, make sure ortho is switched off, and also switch off your object snaps when you're adjusting the viewport. Makes it a bit easier. Okay, the viewport can go outside of the printing boundary if you wanted to. It's what's inside the viewport that's important. Okay, so we've maximized the viewport on the piece of paper. We now double click inside the viewport, center your work, bring it to the middle, and then we choose a layer. Then we choose a scale for the viewport. Okay, so click this item here, and we've really just got to try things out. So let's see what a 1 to 50 looks like. Much too big. Okay, so a 1 to 50 of this building isn't going to fit on an A3. So let's try a 1 to 100. It's still too big a building for the paper. Now if I went to 1 to 200, it's going to be too small. Now 1 to 200 wasn't on the list, but let's add it to the list. We're going to need to add it. So we want to use a custom scale now. Okay, we want to add a scale, and the name of the scale is going to be 1 to 200. 1 paper unit equals 200 drawing units. Okay, that's not in the right position in the list, so let's move that down. Okay, so 1 to 200 will now be available on the list. But that's a bit small. Okay, if I wanted something that's going to be more legible, I maybe just need to go to maybe a 1 to 125. So let's add that to the list as well. So I want a custom scale. I want to add 1:125. 1 drawing unit equals 125. Sorry, 1 paper unit equals 125 drawing units. Okay, move it down so it's in between 1 to 100 and 1 to 200, and OK. And then choose that from the list as well. And we get a nice fit. Sometimes it's just luck. You don't necessarily know what you're going to end up with. So we don't design a building to fit a piece of paper. Okay, we choose the right paper size at the end. Okay, now double click outside the viewport, and we're supposed to be seeing dashed lines here. These red lines are supposed to be broken. The roof lines are supposed to be broken as well. Okay, now if you want to see the full piece of paper again, we use zoom all. So type this in, Z return A return. If you use zoom extents, it fits your view to the viewport. So if you double click your middle mouse button, you're not fully seeing the piece of paper. Okay, so zoom all, Z return A return. Okay, now the dashed appearance of the lines in model space is different to what happens in paper space. We have to change the line type scale to suit paper space. So just remember the command was LTS return, and at the moment it's set for 35. That's going to be way too big for paper space. So let's try 0.5. And when you press enter, you notice that it reinstates all the dashed lines properly. Okay, let's do a plot preview and see what we're going to end up with. So if you type in plot, or you can right click layout 1 and choose plot. Okay, we'll preview this. Okay, and when I zoom in on the preview, we start to see the line weight showing up. Okay, so you can tell instantly which bits of the building are holding things up. The very thick lines. We've lost a bit of detail in the columns because of the scale. Okay, these 1 to 125 is a pretty big scale. Okay, but you can see we've got the hierarchy of information here. We've got thin lines, even thinner lines outside here for the window frames down at the below. A fairly strong box shape for the door, for the window frames, and very strong lines for the walls. Okay, press escape to get out of your preview. If we click OK, it will generate the file. Okay, but the beauty of working with the CTB is that we can change the way this looks by just changing a layer color. So if I wanted the walls to look a bit thinner than they are, and maybe to see more detail in the columns, I change the layer colors. Okay, so let's find the walls layer and let's make this white. So this will take 0.2 of a millimeter off those walls. Okay, and this, say the columns, let's make the columns layer, instead of black, we'll choose yellow for these. These are difficult to read in paper space because you can hardly see it. Okay, so we've changed, this will change the way the drawing prints out. So if we plot now and do a preview, okay, can you see now that we can see inside the columns? The walls are a bit thinner and the columns have got a bit more detail visible. And that's, with that, all we did was change 2 layer colors. The CTB file does the rest of the work. It translates the color to a different line thickness. Okay, press escape and we'll let it generate this time. Click OK. I'm just going to save this to the desktop of my machine. Okay, I'm going to bring this into view. It's just off to the side at the moment. So I've got my Adobe Acrobat view here. I'll just bring it in a bit more so you can see it. Okay, and if you generate your generate PDFs using the DWG to PDF maker, you get control of the layers, which is really quite useful. Okay, so if I start turning a few of these layers off, you see the way the information starts disappearing. I'll turn the marble walls off, the plinth. So it's quite useful if you're wanting to explain the design to somebody. You could actually use that to your own benefit. So that's a little bit different to the way it would be if we'd created it using the Adobe PDF Maker. We wouldn't have got access to the layers that make up the object. I can close that. Okay, I'm going to put the layer colors back the way they were just now. Okay, because that was just really, I just changed them for this demonstration. So we had columns stainless, they were black, and the walls, where are you walls? 2D wall marble. Okay, the marble walls were pink. Okay, so we'll stop this video just here and we'll pick this up again with some annotation in a second.